My daughter, Lily, begged me to leave right after my husband's flight took off. It was just another business trip, the start of another week of solo parenting. I stood on the porch, waving, as his familiar headlights cut through the darkness of our quiet suburban street and disappeared around the corner. I had no way of knowing that my entire world, the safe, predictable life I had so carefully built, would completely unravel before the moon reached its zenith. The routine was always the same. David would pack his single, efficient carry-on suitcase while I made him a final cup of coffee. He'd kneel down to hug Lily, his strong arms wrapping around her small 6-year-old frame, and promise to bring her a special present from wherever it was he was going. This time it was Denver. He'd kiss me at the door, his lips tasting of coffee and a familiar, comforting love. His last words were always the same. "Just another quick trip, honey. I'll be back before you know it. I love you." I loved him too. I loved the certainty of him. David was my rock, my anchor. He was a successful, if somewhat boring, logistics consultant for a large, faceless corporation. He was steady, reliable, and predictable in the best possible way. Our life was a quiet tapestry woven from school drop-offs, weekend soccer games, and comfortable, loving evenings at home. It was everything I had ever wanted. After he left, I herded Lily inside, beginning our own well-worn routine for the nights he was away. "Okay, little bug," I said, "bath time, then one story, and then it's off to dreamland." "Okay, Mommy," she said, but her voice was small, her eyes unusually wide. I chucked it up to the usual sadness of watching her father leave. I went into our master bedroom to turn down the covers and lay out her favorite pajamas on the bed. It was then that my eyes fell on it, in the first tiny crack in the foundation of my perfect life. There on David's nightstand, next to a half-empty glass of water, was his watch. It wasn't just any watch. It was a beautiful, heavy Omega Seamaster with a steel band and a deep blue face. The watch I had saved for a year to buy him for our 7th wedding anniversary. On the back, I had it inscribed, "My rock, my anchor, my love." He never ever took it off except to shower. He called it his lucky charm. The idea that he would forget it on a business trip was more than just unlikely. It was unthinkable. My first reaction was simple annoyance. He forgot his watch? I thought. My fingers hovered over my phone, my first instinct to call him, to tease him about it. But then I stopped. He was already on his way to the airport and there was nothing to be done. It was strange, a small discordant note in the familiar symphony of his departure. But it was just a mistake. It had to be. I went to get Lily for her bath and found her standing in the doorway of her room, her small body rigid, her favorite stuffed animal clutched in a white-knuckled grip. "Sweetie, what's wrong?" I asked, kneeling down to her level. "Did you have a bad thought?" Her lower lip trembled, and her eyes, wide with the primal fear I had never seen in them before, were fixed on the front door. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice trembling, "we have to go. We have to leave this house, now." A chill, completely unrelated to the evening air, snaked its way up my spine. This was more than just post-departure sadness. This was terror. "Honey, what are you talking about? There's nothing to be scared of. We're safe here. Daddy will be back soon." "No," she cried, her voice suddenly sharp, frantic. She grabbed the sleeve of my sweater, her small fingers digging into my arm. "Not Daddy, the other people, the monsters. I heard them." "Heard who, sweetie?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm and soothing. "In the driveway," she whispered, her eyes darting nervously towards the front of the house. "After Daddy's car left, there was another car, a quiet one, and a funny clicking sound. They're coming for us, Mommy. I know it, Please, we have to go." My heart was now beating a little faster. She had a vivid imagination, but this was different. This was specific. A quiet car. A clicking sound. My mind raced, trying to find a rational explanation, but all I could do was try to reassure my terrified child. "Okay, sweetie, I have an idea," I said, forcing a bright smile. "Let's go look at the security camera footage on the computer. We can be detectives. We'll watch the video of the driveway and you'll see that it was just Daddy's car and no one else was here, okay?" She nodded, though her fear was still a palpable aura around her. I led her to the study and sat her on my lap, pulling up the app for our expensive, top-of-the-line home security system on the large monitor. "See?" I said, pointing. "Here's the event log." I scrolled back. "Here's the mailman. Here's you getting home from school. And here," I clicked on the event labeled Driveway Motion Detected, 8:15 p.m., the moment David had left. The video played, showing his familiar headlights, backing out and driving away. "See? Just Daddy." "After, Mommy. Look after." "Okay," I said, my voice still full of forced cheerfulness. I went to the timeline to scrub forward a few minutes, but it wouldn't move. I tried to click on the next 5-minute interval. Nothing. A small, strange error message appeared in the corner of the screen. No data available for this time frame. My blood ran cold. That wasn't right. A glitch or a system crash would show a corrupted file or a system offline alert. This was different. This was a clean, precise, and deliberate deletion. The footage from 8:16 p.m. to 9 p.m. was simply gone, as if it had never existed. Someone with a high level of technical skill had professionally and surgically erased the last hour of footage from our cloud server. I stared at the blank computer screen. The words "no data available" burned into my retinas. My daughter's small, trembling hand was still clutching mine, her fear a cold, tangible presence in the quiet study. The carefully constructed walls of my reality, the life I had believed to be so safe and predictable, were beginning to crumble, and I was terrified of what I would find in the ruins. My first instinct was to call him. I snatched my phone from the desk, my fingers fumbling as I pulled up his contact. David, the name that had always meant safety, stability, and love. The phone rang once, twice, and then clicked straight to his voicemail. "Hi, you've reached David. I'm either on a flight or in a meeting. Leave a message." The familiar, cheerful recording now sounded sinister, a lie broadcast from a world that no longer existed. "David, it's me," I said, my voice a harsh whisper, trying not to alarm Lily any further. "Something is wrong. The security footage. Lily is scared. Call me. The second you get this, you call me. I don't care what meeting you're in." I sent a follow-up text, my thumbs shaking. "Something is wrong. Call me now." A new, frantic energy seized me. The quiet, comfortable house that had always been my sanctuary now felt like a glass cage, exposed and vulnerable. I scooped Lily into my arms, her small body still tense with fear, and began a desperate, methodical sweep of the house. I moved from room to room, the click of each deadbolt, the snap of each window lock, a small prayer against the encroaching, unknown threat. Every creak of the old house, every rustle of leaves outside sent a fresh jolt of adrenaline through my veins. The familiar shadows in the hallway seemed to lengthen and twist into menacing shapes. The house was no longer a home. It was a potential crime scene. As I was checking the lock on the back patio door, the landline phone on the kitchen wall let out a shrill, piercing ring. The sound was so unexpected, so alien in our cell phone-centric world that both Lily and I jumped. No one ever called the landline phone except for the occasional political survey or my out-of-touch great aunt. My heart hammered against my ribs. It rang again, a demanding, insistent summons. With a deep, shuddering breath, I picked it up. "Hello?" I said, my voice barely audible. For a moment, there was nothing but a low, humming static, then a series of sharp electronic clicks, like a distorted recording of a Geiger counter. A cold, metallic voice whispered, a single, unintelligible word in what sounded like Russian or some other Slavic language. And then the line went dead, leaving only the dial tone's monotonous hum. That was it. That was the final piece of proof. This was not a coincidence. This was not my daughter's imagination. This was real. The monsters were real, and they knew where we lived. Panic, hot and blinding, threatened to consume me. My instinct screamed at me to grab my daughter and run into the night. But where would we go? My mind raced, desperately trying to find a logical anchor in the swirling chaos. The watch, the security footage, the phone call, and David, my steady, reliable husband. Who was he? The image of him as a logistics consultant with his boring spreadsheets and conference calls now seemed like a flimsy, ridiculous costume. There had to be answers, and they had to be in this house. I took Lily to her room, turned on her favorite cartoon, and told her to stay put with a firmness that left no room for argument. "Mommy just has to find something in Daddy's office. I will be right back." I went to his home office, the room I had always seen as the epicenter of his boring, predictable work life, now felt like the heart of a dangerous mystery. I didn't know what I was looking for. I started with his desk, my hands pulling open drawers filled with the mundane artifacts of a corporate life. Branded pens, stacks of business cards, and expense reports for trips to Chicago and Houston. It was all so normal, so plausible, that for a moment I thought I was going crazy. Then my fingers brushed against the bottom of the deep filing drawer. It felt wrong. The wood was newer, smoother than the rest. My heart pounding, I emptied the drawer of its hanging files. I ran my fingers along the bottom surface until I found it, a tiny, almost invisible seam. I pressed down and a section of the drawer's floor clicked open, revealing a hidden compartment beneath. My breath caught in my throat. Inside the compartment was a small, tightly packed canvas bag, a go bag. With trembling hands, I pulled it out and unzipped it on the floor. The contents shattered my world. There was a thick, vacuum-sealed brick of cash containing stacks of US dollars, euros, and Japanese yen. Beneath it were 3 pristine passports, each with David's photograph, but with 3 different names: Michael Sullivan, a Canadian; Stefan Brandt, a German; and Ben Carter, an Australian. There was a small, simple, non-trackable burner phone, the kind you see in spy movies, fully charged. There was a set of keys attached to a fob for a car I had never seen before, a late-model Volvo. And at the very bottom, there was a single sealed envelope with my name, Jenna, written in my husband's familiar, steady handwriting. My fingers trembled so violently I could barely tear it open. Inside was a short, cryptic note. "Jenna," it read, "if you are reading this, it means I messed up, and I am so sorry. Trust Lily. Always trust your gut. The watch I left behind was the first signal. It lets my people know I'm in trouble. They can't help you yet, not until it's safe. Use this phone. Call the contact saved as the florist. He will help you. Whatever he tells you to do, you do it without question. Destroy this note. I love you more than anything. Protect our little bug." I read the note 3 times, the words blurring through my tears. My husband, the logistics consultant, the man who helped me with the groceries and coached Lily's soccer team, had people. He had a distress signal. He had a contact named the florist. The life I had known, the man I had loved and married, was a lie, a complete and total fabrication. My silent sacrifice hadn't been enduring a difficult family. It had been actively participating in a lie I didn't even know existed, sacrificing my own intuition on the altar of a comfortable suburban illusion. The fear was still there, a cold, coiling serpent in my gut. But now it was mixed with a new, terrifying clarity. I had no idea who my husband really was. I had no idea who was coming for us or why. But I had his final instructions, and I had our daughter asleep in the next room. My own identity crisis would have to wait. The monsters were real, and it was time for us to disappear. For a long moment, I could do nothing but kneel on the floor of my husband's office, the contents of his secret life scattered around me like the wreckage of a plane crash. The passports with their false names, the stacks of foreign currency, the untraceable phone, and his final cryptic note. Each item was a piece of a puzzle I never knew existed, and the picture it was forming was of a man I did not know and a danger I could not comprehend. The shock was a physical thing, a high-frequency current buzzing under my skin. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at the edges of my mind, threatening to pull me under. But then I heard it. A small, soft whimper from the other room. Lily. Her name was an anchor in the swirling vortex of my fear. It was a single, clear point of focus. The note in my hand was no longer just a mystery. It was a set of instructions, and the final instruction was the only one that mattered. Protect our little bug. The time for shocking grief was a luxury I could not afford. It was time to act. My first move was to follow his instruction precisely. I took the note, his familiar handwriting a painful reminder of the man I thought I knew, and carried it to the kitchen. With trembling fingers, I held a match to the corner of the paper and dropped it into the stainless steel sink. I watched as the flames consumed his words, turning his love and his warning into a fragile black ash. I rinsed the ashes down the drain, erasing the last piece of tangible evidence, my heart aching with the finality of the act. My old life was gone. Next, the go bag. It was a good start, but it was his, not mine. It was impersonal. My daughter needed more than cash and fake passports. She needed comfort. I ran to her room and grabbed her most cherished possession, a worn, one-eyed bunny named Barnaby. I added her favorite pajamas, a spare change of clothes, and the half-eaten bag of gummy dinosaurs from the pantry. I then went to my own room, grabbing our real passports, my emergency stash of cash from a shoebox in my closet, and a small framed photo of the three of us from our last, happy, blissfully ignorant vacation. I stuffed everything into a single, unassuming backpack. We would be leaving everything else behind. Waking Lily was the hardest part. I crept into her room and gently shook her shoulder. She was so deeply asleep, her face a perfect picture of innocent peace. Waking her up felt like pulling her out of a safe, warm world and dragging her into my own waking nightmare. "Maya, sweetie," I whispered, my voice gentle, though my heart was hammering. "Time to wake up. We're going on a surprise trip. A secret adventure. Just you and me." Her eyes fluttered open, confused and bleary. "A trip? Where's Daddy?" "Daddy had to go on his trip early, honey, and he wants us to go on our own special adventure. But it's a secret, so we have to be very, very quiet, like spies. Can you be a super spy for Mommy?" Her eyes widened with a flicker of childish excitement, momentarily overriding her fear. She nodded. I quickly dressed her, my hands moving with the speed and efficiency I didn't know I possessed. Then, holding her hand tightly, we slipped, not out the front door, but through the dark kitchen and into the garage. The car keys from the go-bag felt strange and foreign in my hand. They didn't belong to my sensible family minivan. I pressed the unlock button, and the headlights of a dark gray Volvo sedan I had never seen before flashed in the darkness. It was parked in the far corner of the garage. His secret car for his secret life. Getting into the unfamiliar car, my hands fumbled with the controls. The garage door, usually so quiet, seemed to groan and screech as it opened, the sound echoing through the silent, sleeping suburban street like a scream. I backed out of the driveway, my eyes scanning every parked car, every dark window, my entire body braced for the sudden glare of headlights, for the squeal of tires. But there was nothing. The street was empty, peaceful. It was a terrifying, deceptive calm. I didn't take the main roads. I stuck to the dark, winding back streets, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Beside me, on the passenger seat, sat the burner phone. It felt like a malevolent object, a portal to a world I did not want to enter. But I knew I had to. After driving for what felt like an eternity, I pulled over, my heart pounding, and turned it on. The screen flickered to life, simple and anonymous. There was only one contact saved in the phone book, a single cryptic name, the florist. Who was the florist? A code name? A real person? A friend? An enemy? I stared at the name, my thumb hovering over the call button. But my father's instruction replayed in my head. Whatever he tells you to do, you do it without question. I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. I needed more distance. I needed to think. The decision was made for me by the flashing fuel light on the dashboard. The car, his secret car, was nearly empty. Of course it was. I had to stop. I had to expose myself. I took the next exit and found myself on a lonely stretch of highway. The only sign of life, a single, brightly lit gas station. An island of fluorescent light in an ocean of darkness. It felt like a trap, but I had no choice. I pulled up to the pump, my eyes scanning the empty parking lot. As I got out, the cold night air hit me, and a wave of dizziness washed over me. I was just a mom, in a hoodie and yoga pants, at a gas station in the middle of the night, with my terrified daughter in the back seat, running from a faceless enemy I couldn't begin to comprehend. As the gas began to pump, a man emerged from the shadows near the convenience store. He was so average, so utterly nondescript in his simple jacket and baseball cap that he was almost invisible. He started walking towards me. My body went rigid. My hand tightened on the gas nozzle, my mind frantically calculating if I could use it as a weapon. He didn't look at me at first. He just stopped a few feet away, pretending to look at the map under the station's bright lights. "Cold night," he said, his voice a low, even murmur. I didn't respond. He looked up at the sky. "The watchmaker is running late tonight, isn't he?" The words. The watch. My blood ran cold. This was it. This was him, the florist, or someone he had sent. I just stared at him, my heart hammering against my ribs. He finally looked at me, his eyes dark and serious. He took a half step closer, his voice dropping to an urgent, barely audible whisper. "You did well to get out of the house. They are on their way there now. And they are not the police," he said. "You can't keep this car. It has a tracker. You need to get off this highway. Your credit cards have been flagged. Your phone is a beacon. From this moment on, you are a ghost." He moved past me, pretending to head towards the store. As he did, his hand brushed against mine, and I felt the cold, hard press of a key being slipped into my palm. "There's a motel called the Pine Ridge Inn in Oak Haven, about 30 miles north of here, off Route 17. Room 7. This key is for a lockbox inside the closet. Everything you need for the next step is in there. Go now. Do not stop for anyone. Do not call your husband. We will contact you." And then he was gone, disappearing inside the convenience store as if he had never been there at all. I stood there for a second, my palm tingling where he had touched it, The small, cold key, a heavy weight of terror and confirmation. The monsters are real, and they are close. The gas nozzle clicked off, the sound unnaturally loud in the silent fluorescent glare of the deserted station. My hand was shaking as I replaced it, the cold, hard shape of the motel key a secret weight in my palm. The stranger was gone, having vanished as quickly and silently as he had appeared. For a moment, I was frozen, trapped between two impossible worlds. Behind me lay the smoldering ruins of my life, a lie I unknowingly cherished. Ahead of me lay a dark, unfamiliar road and a cryptic set of instructions from a man who knew my husband's deepest secrets. There was no real choice. There was only the road ahead. I got back into the unfamiliar Volvo, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. I locked the doors and peeled out of the gas station, my tires squealing in protest. The stranger had said to take Route 17 north. I followed the instruction without question, turning off the main highway and onto a dark, two-lane country road that snaked through dense black forests. Every pair of headlights that appeared in my rearview mirror was a potential threat. I would hold my breath as they approached, my hands strangling the steering wheel, my body rigid, only to exhale in a shaky gasp as they passed me by. My daughter, my sweet Lily, was fast asleep in the back, her face peaceful in the dim glow of the dashboard lights, her one-eyed bunny, Barnaby, clutched to her chest. She was the only reason I was able to keep going, the only reason the terror didn't swallow me whole. My fear for her was a sharper, more focused thing than my fear for myself. It was a compass needle, pointing me forward through this dark, terrifying new wilderness. It was nearly 3 a.m. when I saw it. A flickering, lonely neon sign on the side of the road, half its letters burnt out, spelling P-N-Ein Ridge Inn. The Pine Ridge Inn. It was a classic, rundown roadside motel, a relic from another era, the kind of place people go when they don't want to be found. It was perfect. I pulled into the gravel parking lot, my headlights sweeping across a row of numbered doors, and there it was, room 7. I carried my sleeping daughter from the car, her warm, limp body a comforting weight against my own. The night was cold and silent. The only sound was the crunch of gravel under my feet and the distant rumble of a passing truck. The key the stranger had given me felt slick and cold in my trembling hand. It slid into the old rusted lock of room 7 and turned with a satisfying heavy clunk. I pushed the door open, quickly herded Lily inside and bolted it behind us, my back pressing against the cool wood as I finally allowed myself a moment to breathe. The room was a time capsule of anonymity. It was clean but utterly devoid of character. 2 double beds with thin, faded floral bedspreads, a dark, scarred wooden desk with a bolted-down television. The air faintly smelled of stale cigarettes and pine-scented cleaner. I gently laid Lily on the bed farthest from the door, tucking Barnaby beside her. She didn't stir. For that, I was endlessly grateful. My own exhaustion was a heavy cloak, but I knew I couldn't rest. Not yet. The stranger's words echoed in my head. The key is for a lockbox inside the closet. I moved to the small closet and found it immediately. A small, gray metal box bolted securely to the floor in the back corner. The key slid into the lock, and with a turn, the box opened. The contents confirmed I had not been dreaming. It was a second go bag, a professional one. Inside was the sleek, heavy satellite phone, a new set of car keys, and 2 pristine, official-looking document folders. My hand shook as I opened the first one. Inside were 2 new passports and driver's licenses. The photos were of me and Lily, taken from our social media profiles, but the names were foreign to me. I was no longer Jenna Miller. I was now Sarah Carter. My daughter was not Lily, she was Emily. Our old lives had been officially, legally erased. In the second folder was the final item, a single, black, encrypted flash drive. There was also a cheap generic laptop sitting on the room's desk. It was clearly part of the package. My heart pounded as I plugged the drive into the USB port. A single, password-protected video file appeared on the screen. The password was written on a small sticker on the flash drive itself. My anchor. The inscription from his watch. I typed it in and hit enter. The video opened. And there he was. My husband, David. He looked terrible. He was in a dark, undecorated room, his face etched with exhaustion and a deep, profound sorrow. The familiar, easygoing smile was gone, replaced by a grim, hard line. This was not the man who had kissed me goodbye just hours earlier. This was a stranger wearing my husband's face. "Jenna," he began, his voice a rough, tired rasp. "If you are watching this, it means that I have failed you in the most profound way imaginable. And I am so sorry." He closed his eyes for a moment, the pain on his face so real it was a physical blow. The life we had, the life I gave you, it was real. For me, it was the only real thing in a life of lies, but it was built on a foundation I could never share with you. I am not a logistics consultant, Jenna. My name is not even David Miller. I am an operative for a clandestine branch of our government. For the last 15 years, my job has been to infiltrate and dismantle international criminal and terrorist organizations. He took a deep, shuddering breath. My last assignment, it went wrong. Our cover was blown. The organization we were targeting, they are not just criminals. They are ruthless, well-funded, and they have connections everywhere. They know about me, and they know about you and Lily. The life we knew is over. You can never go back to that house. You can never contact our friends or your family. They are all being watched. He explained everything. The watch he left behind was an emergency distress beacon, a signal to his agency that he had been compromised. The deleted security footage was him covering his tracks as he left, trying to buy us a little time. The stranger at the gas station was his handler, the florist, a man whose only job was to protect the families of compromised agents. "Everything you need is on this drive," he said, his voice cracking. "Bank accounts that can't be traced, contacts for the next stage of your extraction, a new life, a safe life." Tears were now streaming down his face. The man you married, the suburban dad who coached soccer and forgot to take out the recycling, that part wasn't a lie, Jenna. That was the only part of me that was ever truly real. I love you, and I love our little bug more than life itself. He leaned closer to the camera, his eyes boring into mine. "Be strong. Be the fighter I always knew you were. Protect our daughter. Survive. Please just survive." And then the video ended, leaving me in the dead silence of the anonymous motel room, the glow of the screen reflecting in my own tear-filled eyes. The grief was a physical, crushing weight. The man I loved was gone, perhaps forever, and the life we had shared was a beautiful, elaborate illusion. But as I looked over at my sleeping daughter, her small chest rising and falling in the dim light, the grief began to recede, burned away by a fierce, primal fire. He had given me a mission. The old Jenna, the happy, naive wife, was gone. In her place was Sarah Carter, a mother, a survivor. I picked up the satellite phone from the lockbox, its weight feeling solid and purposeful in my hand. I didn't know where this road would lead. I didn't know who was hunting us. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. They had made a terrible mistake. They had taken my husband, but they had left his family behind. And a mother protecting her child is the most dangerous force on earth. My new life had just begun. An absolutely intense and suspenseful story that leaves us on the edge of our seats. What a powerful transformation from a suburban mom to a survivor on a mission. This story ends on a huge cliffhanger. What do you think Jenna's first move should be with the satellite phone? Let us know your theories in the comments below. If you loved this thrilling story and want more mysteries and suspense, show your support by hitting that like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click the notification bell, Bing, so you never miss a new story. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.